By the Executive Director of the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution. That's CASEC's Lawson Naidoo. Lawson, it's great to have you with us this morning on the show. Let me ask you this. Are you also experiencing quite a keen sense of déjà vu this morning?
Well, good morning, Michelle. Thank you. Look, I think it's no surprise that this has occurred. It's quite clear that there were going to be attempts to ameliorate Mr. Zuma's custodial sentence that was imposed by the Constitutional Court. But I think one must assume that, if the process has been correctly followed and the medical reports do indicate that Mr. Zuma is a candidate for medical parole, then this is probably an appropriate decision that has been taken.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, however, that the Department of Correctional Services has not provided the level of detail that one would expect in making this announcement. And I think the first point to note is that Mr. Zuma has not been released. He remains under the supervision of the Department of Correctional Services. He's simply been granted medical parole, so that enables him to receive the medical treatment that is necessary to deal with the condition that he is being afflicted with, and that he remains under their supervision. They also say that the medical parole is granted on certain conditions, but they have not shared those conditions with the people of South Africa, and therefore the levels of suspicion and skepticism will continue until there's full disclosure by the department.
So speaking of full disclosure, Lawson, this is in connection with an undisclosed medical condition. In fact, the former president, we're told, has undergone a surgical procedure. We don't know the nature of that either. And of course, there is privacy for any citizen insofar as your medical situation is concerned. But do the same rules apply for a former president?
Well, I think they should and they must. We must respect the confidentiality of Mr. Zuma's medical condition and the doctor-patient confidentiality. But without breaching that confidentiality, the department is able to indicate certain conditions that certain conditions have been met to enable Mr. Zuma to qualify for medical parole, and what the conditions that the department have imposed on that granting of medical parole. And that's not available to us at the moment, and that simply leads to speculation that there may have been political influence in terms of the department reaching this decision. It is, after all, an administrative act that has an impact on the judicially imposed prison sentence.
Yeah. So what the statement by the Department of Corrections does say is that the decision was made around various issues, but mostly because of a medical report received by the Department of Correctional Services. And it alludes to what you mentioned just earlier, Lawson, insofar as there's no independent decision being made here. It's a decision that's been made specifically on the orders of the former president's doctors. Is that procedurally correct?
Well, it's unclear whether that is the case. So the issue of how was this process initiated? Was it initiated by the doctors? Was it initiated by Mr. Zuma? Or was it initiated by the department itself? And those are areas that the department needs to clarify, because we need to understand that proper process has been followed and that the appropriate medical advice has been received to enable the department to come to a decision that is based on the law and the regulations that surround the granting of medical parole.
I suppose one of the sort of sad parts about how the situation has unfolded, I mean, you've described what should be happening here. We should have faith in the system. We should respect the former president's privacy. That's all under question here insofar as the processes are concerned.
Well, we can't get away from the fact that the Commissioner of the Correctional Facilities is one Arthur Fraser, who was a former head of national intelligence, who was, as we've heard from the Zondo Commission, set up a parallel intelligence structure that was set up primarily to benefit Mr. Zuma in his capacity as a former president. And therefore, there's a deep level of suspicion about any decision that Mr. Fraser will take in this regard.
Arthur Fraser, for his part, also appealing to the country now to respect the former president's privacy and to respect the decision by the Department of Corrections.
Well, the South African public can only respect the decision if Mr. Fraser plays ball with the people of South Africa and discloses the sufficient information to enable us to respect that decision in its totality. At the moment, on the basis of the scant information that has been made available, there is a healthy level of suspicion.
Lawson Naidoo, let me thank you for your time this morning. He is CASEC's Executive Secretary, speaking to us there on the line as we continue to unpack that decision by the Department of Correctional Services to grant former President Jacob Zuma medical parole.